who will enjoy the spoils of victory. Spoilers of victory, that is, this weekend in Martinsville. Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Jeff Gordon, or perhaps Jimmy Johnson. There may be some surprises, and it all begins right here with the first round of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice at my favorite racetrack, Martinsville Speedway. Bring on the hot dogs, load up those spoilers, let's go racing.
Yeah, and you know what? You asked about Jimmy Johnson. I think he could win without anything on the back.
A half of a wing and a half of a spoiler.
I don't think it makes any difference. That team is just on such a roll. They got the momentum. The other thing I like is they are in the heads of everybody in that garage area. Chad in the pits and Jimmy on the track. They got it going on right now.
Larry, the big story is the new spoiler, and I like the way NASCAR is rolling it out. First at a half-mile track, then at a mile, then at a mile and a half, and then at Talladega. But there's been so much to this process, and it's really taken so long to make a change that was first talked about in the winter months.
Well, and Mike, it sounds so simple. Undo the 8 bolts that hold the wing on and bolt the spoiler on, and let's go racing, boys. But it's much more complicated than that. And what I saw in the garage area this morning with the 46 cars, it's almost like back at school for the first time, especially when it comes to inspection. It's a little bit of a learning process for NASCAR, a little bit of a learning process for the teams. It's just the interpretation of the procedure. But you're right, Mike. I'm not sure that Martinsville is going to be a great measuring stick, but all I know is they look like race cars again.
All right, well, let's go down to the garage where the hot dogs are red and the sound meter is redder. Chris Devoda.
Well, Mike, to say Jimmy Johnson is simply good at this racetrack is like saying you guys aren't going to eat those hot dogs during this practice show. Jimmy Johnson just bringing his number 48 car in now. He has won 5 of the last 7 here. I asked him, why won't you win this race? He pointed to qualifying later today. His average start here, 12. That's still pretty good. Not good enough. Jeff Gordon has 7 poles. Jimmy Johnson only has 1. They are focused on qualifying in this practice session. Dick Bergeron.
Well, if you're tired of watching Jimmy Johnson take the checkered flag, you might cheer for Denny Hamlin here at Martinsville Speedway because he is oh so good at this place. In the last 4 races, he has won twice, and last year he led more than half of the laps combined over the spring and the fall race. He has a brand new car. They're starting this practice with the setup that won here last fall.
Thanks, Dick. Boy, it's nice to see race cars that look like race cars.
Well, they do, and you wouldn't think. What made the cars look so odd, I think, with the wing on the back was how far back behind the car the wing set. And it really made these cars look odd. Now they look normal.
Now, wings are effective and efficient on a wide variety of race cars. Indy cars, Daytona prototypes, American Le Mans cars, sports cars, stock cars, spoilers.
Well, the wings on those cars, Mike, set up in the air. I mean, they got air going over them, they got air going under them, and that makes a wing very effective. Ours was more like a big roadblock on the back of the car.
Now, I want to, if I can get our cameraman to pan down low on the side of the quarter panel. The other thing that went with the spoiler is they added material here. They added 4 inches in this area right here, and it's back to nothing right there. And what that did, NASCAR has worked hard with the teams to try to keep the same side force numbers that we had with the wing. When they went from the wing to the spoiler, it took some of that side force away. So when they came in there and they added that material left and right, that gave some of that side force numbers back, which is very important to the handling of these race cars.
Yeah, when the car gets sideways, those big, fat, flat sides are basically like a big wind foil. And as it sees air and it sees a lot of it, it'll push the car back straight. We gave a lot of credit to the end plates on the wing for doing that. Certainly they help, but adding that material to the bottom of that quarter panel, that not only creates side force, but also helps with the drag and down force.
And I'll tell you, Darrell, it's improved the look of the car as well, because at the back, the COT with the wing was looking kind of pickup truckish. And I like this.
All right, one other thing you're going to see here at Martinsville and Phoenix. Look at Juan Pablo Montoya, the 42 car. There's no strip on the deck lid of that car. You only have the shark fin down the back window. Now, if you look closely at the 82 car of Scott Speed, who's right behind him, you see a strip on the deck lid. That is optional here in Phoenix, and that has to be 2.5 inches to match the back glass fin. And what that does, one of the crew chiefs tells me, that gives about 40 more pounds of side force to the car. At Texas, just like the test at Lowe's, The back glass fin and the deck fin will have to be 3.5 inches tall, and it's mandatory. Question might be, if it's that much better, how come more teams are not running it? It's because, you know what? They work to cut as many ounces off of these cars as possible, and a lot of the teams are saying, we don't want to put that weight on the deck lid. We're opting to go without it. I think we'll see more at Phoenix, even though it's optional there.
You know when you'll see more of it? When the guy that has one wins a race.
Exactly.
Everybody will have one.
Now, what's interesting, I did not see a single Hendrick Motorsports car that had that deck lid fin on it this morning.
There's Elliott Sadler in petty blue, a familiar sight in victory
Except
lane
the
here at
88 car.
Martinsville. and here's
The 24 and the 48 did not have one. Now, that's interesting that the 24 and the 48 would not. The 88 has one.
But Larry, if you have teammates, what would you do? You do it, you put it on your car and let us know how it's acting on your car, and if it feels like it's a plus, we can add it to the other cars.
Well, who shares the shop with the 88 car?
That'd be the 5 right there.
car.
Okay. Now, if it helps any, who has the fastest lap of practice?
The 5
car.
And that's amazing in open practice.
Folks, we'll get to the facts. Sometimes we just have to kind of back into them.
Takes us a while.
Well, an interesting conundrum so far is that Mark Martin is fastest in this practice with the fin down the deck lid, as you see on Tony Stewart's car. Juan Pablo Montoya is second fastest without it.
Yeah, I think
half-mile track.
Yeah, the verdict has to be out, and I think here, I'm serious. You could lay that spoiler flat. I don't think it would affect the car. It's going to affect it, but not all that much. It's just not that critical here.
Stewart is 15th on the practice chart.
Now, Tony's actually the track record holder. It was his last pole back in October of 05 at a 19.30. Right now, Mark Martin's fastest at a 19.81.
Matt Kenseth is 33rd in the early going.
Tell you, down in the 19s already, that's a pretty good indication the cars are fast, because we usually practice around the 20 flat range. And then as time goes by, these guys get a little more serious qualifying runs. They might drop it down in the 19s. That's a quick lap for the first time out.
But how about on Matt Kenseth? 5 top 10 finishes in these first 5 races. Comes in here second. The points only 1 point behind point leader Kevin Harvick.
Little doubt that he will make the chase this year. Nice. It's going to be a rebound year. I was reading that after 5 races, an average of 7 of the current top 10 will be in the chase.
Yep. I
read
the same thing, and I started trying to figure out who are the 5 that would come out. If there's 7 in, what 5 are in now that might fall out? That's interesting, too, if you take a look at it.
Krista.
Well, I don't think Kyle Busch will be one of those guys. Right now, he has climbed up into the top 10 in points, 10th after a good finish, salvaging a good finish at Bristol. And talking to Kyle, he said that's what this team has to do. They have to take bad days and turn them into okay to good days. And he said Martinsville, one of those tracks he hasn't mastered, one of only 3 where he hasn't won either a truck nationwide or cup race. Martinsville, Pocono, and Indy are the 3, the flat tracks. Right now, the team making an adjustment, tires, fuel, and air pressure for their driver, Kyle Busch.
And Mike, that's exactly right. That's what I saw with Kyle last week. Normally, he'd hit the wall in the race. Guess what he'd do? He'd go and hit it again. And he'd hit it until he knocked himself out of the race. Last week, they stayed calm. They stayed on the lead lap. They fixed the car, and he got a top 10 finish. Big difference in a year ago.
David Rudiman carrying Tums on the car. They sponsor the fall race here at Martinsville.
But you know what, Mike, right now, just looking at going back to your statement you made, after 5 races, we only have 4 drivers that are in the top 12 that made the chase last year. Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch, and Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys sitting right outside. Carl Edwards 13th along in there, and along with a couple other guys that were in the chase last year, but not there right now.
Here's one of the nice surprises of this year. And Paul Menard is 16th on the chart right now in the Menards number 98. Joe Nemechek has jumped up to 2nd. Clint Boyer 3rd. But Boy, Menard's really had a breakout season.
He has. I mean, he's sitting there, what, 9th in the points right now after being in the top 5. No, he doesn't look too sporty right there. Might want to tighten her up a tad. But no, he's doing a fantastic job. Slugger, Labby, that whole crowd.
You know where he was in points this time last year? 38th.
Wondering if he's going to make the race or not.
Right.
Yeah, we've got a lot of guys that not only are high up in the points, but they were teams this time a year ago that wasn't even in the top 35, like Menard, like Scott Speed in that 82 car.
See, when you see those cars step out kind of like Sam's did right there, that's when the driver goes to the throttle. You've got 850 horsepower you're trying to hook up to that concrete surface. So when you hit the throttle, the first thing that's going to happen is the rear wheels are going to try to spin. And that's where you'll see the back end jack out just a little bit. That's the challenge, being able to get in the throttle and keep the rear tires stuck to the concrete.
One big change this week is the numbers game. Kevin Conway has been driving the number 37. That car was close to being out of the top 35. So the decision was made before the entry blank deadline for this race for he and David Gilliland to essentially swap rides. And really all that changed was the number on the door, but David is now the driver of the 37 and inherits those points. Rookie Kevin Conway is now the driver of the 38 and inherits those points. Hope they didn't have a whole lot of souvenir cards made up early in the season.
Well, but just think about it. Kevin is a rookie, and Kevin's he was on the fence of getting knocked out of the top 35. Gilliland, who's a great short track racer, it makes sense for them to do what they did to try to get a little cushion for the 37 car.
You see right there the danger zone. Of course, we now go by the current top 35 and owner points after Bristol. You see Mike Bliss, Tommy Ball in the 36 car. They actually did not make the race at Bristol. They're still only 48 points. And if you look right there, the 77 car back through the 26 car, that's 5 teams. They're only separated by 49 points. So I think we'll see a lot of going and coming in the top 35.
Very tight there. David Gilliland with a sponsor this week, Gander Mountain, the outdoors store chain, is on his car.
Did you just look at that race car? I mean, it's amazing to me. It just blows my mind what those cars look like with taking that wing off, putting that spoiler on.
Wonder if that's what Montoya is pondering right now. Dick?
Well, he's 4th quick on the board right now, Mike, and what he's pondering is what they're doing to the race car. This is a whole new setup that's going underneath it at the moment, despite the fact that he was really quick. Brian Patty, the crew chief, has decided to try a bunch of different things in this practice session, and then late in the practice, they're going to put the qualifying set under it. Montoya did incredibly well here last October. Remember, he and Jeff Gordon banging together time after time, and Montoya wound up taking home 3rd spot. So he does well here at Martinsville. They're going to get a setup that's going to work for him late in the race if things go according to plan.
You know, Darrell, it's so interesting looking at the 42 car, and you mentioned wing versus rear spoiler. There were over 40 teams that showed up at Charlotte Motor Speedway for a 2-day test. Pretty much of all those teams, everyone just showed up with the rear spoiler and said, that's what we've got, that's what we're going to work with. Brian Patty and Montoya decided to start with the wing, take the wing off and bolt the rear spoiler on. There were 2 100ths of a second difference in a lap with the wing and a lap with the spoiler, and that's at a 1.5 mile racetrack.
That's a great test. I mean, that absolutely answers everything you want to know. That's a great way to approach that test.
May 11th, opening day, as the countdown continues. There'll be at least one Earnhardt in that Hall of Fame when they induct the inaugural class this May.
Anybody, but the first people that go to that place, they're going to be blown away. I've never seen anything like it.
You were hanging out down there earlier in the week.
I was over there Monday, and I got a little pre-tour there of the place, and holy cow. It's like walking into a racing shop, really.
But there was a reason you were down there.
Yeah, we got to put the Mountain Dew car up on the racetrack there with all the other famous cars.
And I understand that'll be a rotating display so that every time the fans go, they'll be able to see a pretty different group of cars.
Yeah, every 2 years I think they're going to rotate them out.
Neat.
There are some other cars that they'll rotate out yearly, but those up on that racetrack will be every 2 years, I think. And they got the first car up there on the start. The starts is progressive all the way up to the car that won Daytona.
Great.
You know, talking about our go or go homers in the danger zone, when you look at the guys that are outside the top 35 now, they are relieved that this 71 car, Bobby Labonte, they are in the top 35 because realistically that opens up another spot because Bobby, of course, outside the top 35 would be eligible for the championship provision.
And he'd be the only driver here who is. Now, back in the day, the Wood brothers that Bill Elliott drives for would compete at all the super speedways, Riverside, California road course, and they'd run one set of short track races a year, and that was here at Martinsville because the Woods are from Stewart, Virginia, which is just a short but dizzying ride to the west on Highway 58.
That's a bunch better. Still too loose in the middle. It drives a lot better. It drives really.
35th for Greg Biffle.
I just gotta laugh. If you're going that slow, it's going to drive good.
Jamie Mack is 16th. And I believe he'll sport the McDonald's colors in just about every race this year that they don't have Bass Pro Shops on the car. It'll be the McDonald's car. Wonder if we can get those Jesse Jones Franks at the local Golden Arches.
Probably not. Probably not.
Some things are just meant to be special and in certain places.
Well, they're just for this area. They don't sell them everywhere.
No.
You can order them, I think, online, but they don't sell them everywhere.
Yeah, it's a regional brand, Central Virginia, North Carolina. And the best place to get, just like the best place to eat a hot dog is the baseball park, and the next best place is Martinsville Speedway. And just tell them you want it loaded up.
I mean, I saw some of the mechanics on these race cars walking around this morning about 8:30, 8:45 with 2 or 3 in each hand. Looking at Clint Boyer here in the 33 car. Darrell, interesting what happened to this car at Bristol. You know, they blew up very early, which is something you don't see with the ECR engine package. Talked to Danny Lawrence over there, and he said they had a rod bearing go out. One rod bearing. He said all the other bearings look great. So just to make sure they've covered their bases, they put a little more oil pressure in the engines coming here just to make sure that wasn't an oil pressure problem.
Yeah, the guys have always made me nervous with that oil pressure thing because they like to keep it as low as possible. We used to try to keep it as high as possible because we just felt like you're going to lose in a race, particularly as things wear. You're going to lose a little pressure. But these engines are now so efficient, the oiling systems are, that they don't have to have 80, 90 pounds of oil pressure. They can get by with about 40, 50 pounds of oil pressure.
But I think what had them scratching their head, all of the other bearings look great. It's like almost something went through.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like trash in the oil.
Well, no trash talking from here on out.
No.
Krista.
Dale Jr. 8th quick right now. Junior, I heard you talking about making the entry better, trying to roll a little bit better. What are you missing in the corner in your race car?
Well, we started really low on the wedge, and we put a little bit of that in, and that really helped it. And it's pretty close right now. There's not a lot of rubber down on the racetrack, so we feel like we're running pretty good and just need to tweak on the car a little bit, so we're moving into qualifying trim. And we'll see where the car is tomorrow after some more rubber's been put down. The track's probably going to tighten up, so I left it on a little bit of the free side because the track's probably going to start coming toward us.
I know a lot was made about your conversation on the radio with Lance McGrew, but it was also the heat of the moment. Everything okay there, or just venting to someone you're very close with, your crew chief?
Yeah, you know, everybody made a big deal out of it. I guess nobody else listens to any of the drivers on the radio, so, or there wasn't nothing else to talk about this week. So.
All right, thanks, Dale.
And that's the thing. I don't think the writers understand, and I think the folks at home need to understand. When you're in that race car, your primary means of venting your frustration is that little black and green button that connects you to the outside world. And spouting off doesn't necessarily mean you're mad at anybody. It just means you need to vent. And we heard the conversation. To me, that's all Junior was doing, was venting frustration. He wasn't so mad at Lance or the team or the world or anybody. He just needed to get some of that out so he could get back to business.
Well, he was upset because of the speeding penalty.
Right.
That's what got it all started.
Right.
And, you know, that's why he was aggravated the way he was. And then the conversation, you know, I used to read. My attorney actually gave me a card to read before a race. If people are going to scan my channel and they're going to listen to what I have to say, then they need to understand that there are certain perimeters that go along with it. And we used to read that on the parade lap.
Right. And that's fine. But what he said on the radio is not something that you would get out of the car and go find your crew chief to tell him. It was just of the moment.
Yeah. No,
cut him some slack, Jack.
That button on the steering wheel, it's your best friend and your worst enemy.
Let's go send for some hot dogs.
Yes.
How many? Tonight on Speed, Senator Jeff Burton, the mayor of the garage area, so to speak, and four-time Cup champ Jeff Gordon. Stop by the Ultimate Friday Night House Party. It's NASCAR trackside for Martinsville. It's tonight at 7 Eastern, only on Speed. There's a look at Jeff, whose hometown is South Boston, Virginia, not too far to the east. So this would be a home game for Burton.
And with the extension of the quarter panels, the cars look like they're lower to the track.
Oh, I love it. I love the whole look, Darrell.
Now the cars that used to look like when you come here with the wing on the back look like they're all hiked up in the rear end. Now they're all just down and dirty, like they're digging on a short track.
Really looks like they got slammed.
Yeah, yeah.
Right down to the pavement. Joe Nemechek has the third quickest lap here today.
Joe's good here.
Yeah, he's by far the fastest go homer, but actually Johnny Sauter in that second Tommy Baldwin car, the 35 car, he's fifth quickest. So those guys quick as far as the go homers, but I think we'll see the same thing we saw at Bristol last week. We get to that final 30 minutes of this practice, you'll see the practice chart really start to change.
In fact, if that won't stay in the top 5 if that's all you got.
No.
Because these guys are on qualifying runs every time they go out. And the other boys are trying to, you know, they think about rain and weather and they want to try their race setup and experiment a little bit. These guys are full blown. Every time they go out, it's 2 laps, see what we can do.
Joe won the pole here in the fall of 1999. Dick?
Well, we're well agreed that the look of the car is very improved. But Denny Hamlin, how does the car feel with the new spoiler in the back?
You know, if I wouldn't have looked back there, I would have never really known a difference. But our FedEx car is pretty good. It's we're getting a little bit loose on the long run, so we need to work on that. But you know, we're going to switch over to qualifying trim now because it looks like we're going to get it in today.
All right, Denny Hamlin, one of the guys to beat on Sunday for sure.
Yeah, there's no rain expected this afternoon. There's a lot of big heavy clouds and scattered sunshine in the area, but I don't think we have much of a chance of rain this afternoon.
No, actually it was supposed to rain this morning, but it moved through here during the night, and you know, it looks like we're good to go the rest of the day. Tomorrow looks beautiful. They're calling for some late afternoon thunderstorms on Sunday, but right now we look awfully good.
Max Pappas missed the show at Bristol after spending some time at Hickory running a late model to try to get his short track game up to par. And so he is out of the top 35.
You know, this is one racetrack that the person that can help you the most is the cat driving the car. It's so easy here to just get intimidated by this little racetrack, mainly because of you use so much brake. So how much brake? You say you use a lot. How much? Then you got to get back in the gas. Okay, so when I do, the car gets sideways. Well, you're getting back in it too soon. And you'll hear drivers talk about there's a rhythm. All these short tracks have a real nice rhythm to them. On and off the brakes, on and off the gas, just kind of finessing the car. Finesse drivers are the guys that do good here.
Well, you know, to put it in simple form, Mike, this race car that weighs over 3,500 pounds, there's 3 major components about getting around a racetrack, and that's getting that 3,500 pound to stop getting in the corner, getting it to turn and rotate through the middle, and getting it to accelerate with that over 800 horsepower off the corner. This track hates all 3 of those components.
Yeah, I feel like, though, here's where a driver and a crew chief have to really be working together, because in my opinion, the driver is the guy that gets the car in the corner. He's the guy that drives it down there. If you drive it in too hard and use too much brake, it won't turn. If you don't drive it, brakes are the key. The crew chief, on the other hand, he's got to get the car off the corner. He's got to be the guy that makes the adjustment to the car so that when you get back in the throttle, you can get back in it wide open and it'll accelerate straight off the corner. So driver has to get it in, then the crew chief has to do his part and get it off.
That's a great explanation. You buying that, Larry?
Yes, sir. All right. In other words, the crew chief's the most important element.
The only thing I'm buying is the hot dogs. Where are they?
I'm in there by myself.
Welcome back to Martinsville, Virginia. First round of practice for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. A familiar name tops the chart. No, it's not the 6 of David Reagan. Not quite. It's Jimmy Johnson. A lap of 19.727.
Just imagine that. Jimmy Johnson at the top of the chart. I would not have even guessed that.
Krista?
Jimmy Johnson taking the steering wheel off, getting ready to get out of the car. The team switching over to a qualifying setup. You know, it's funny, as Johnson, I asked him, I said, you know, a lot of fans are saying you're bad for the sport, this domination. He likened it to Michael Jordan. Was he bad for basketball? Was Tiger Woods bad for golf? And he said, hey, you know, I have another idea. If anyone's not having fun, they can become a 48 fan because we're having a blast.
And I think it bears noting that the 3 races Jimmy has won this year, he did not dominate any of those races. Kevin Harvick, Jeff Gordon, and Kurt Busch did. But Jimmy was there when it counted, and just reinforcing what we've long said is he is the best closer, maybe the best one this sport's ever known.
I believe he is, and I tell you the other thing I believe is that if you're getting beaten by him every week, it's frustrating because you're not as good as he is. You just aren't at that. You can't get to that level, and that's what's frustrating as a driver, crew, everybody. How come we can't get to that level?
And you know what? We had 93 races with that wing, and Jimmy Johnson and that 48 group won 22 of them. Now, here's a little nugget for you. That was his 50th win at Bristol. It took him 296 starts to get there. The quickest anyone's gotten there was Jeff Gordon at 232. Who do you think's the second quickest?
Richard Petty.
How about Darrell Waltrip at 278?
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, well, what was I thinking?
You need to win 1 out of 5 races to do that. I mean, look at that. And the name right off the chart is Junior Johnson, 303 starts to get his 50th win.
Yeah, I was driving for Junior when I got my 50th win. Fired me right after that.
Well, that's when you tied him.
You tied him.
I tied him, yeah. That's right. What K.O. said. You ain't beat me yet. You just tied me.
Terry Cook is 36th on the speed chart, and where he is practicing right now, he would be right on the cusp of making the race for Sunday. Ryan Newman in the 39.
How about our buddy Ryan Newman? We had the pleasure of sitting down with him this morning. You know, we always like to know what these guys are doing away from the racetrack. He's building a windmill on his property. How tall did he say this windmill is going to be?
47 feet.
47 feet.
And this is not a Don Quixote kind of windmill. This was a working farm windmill up in Intercourse, Pennsylvania, that was disassembled, was no longer needed, and sold to a broker down here, a fellow who sells farm equipment. Turns out the fellow that Brian bought it from, his son works for Stewart Haas Racing.
And he just had met him that day. I guess he went to buy it.
Yeah, I told him I'd get Hammond to come over and help him test it. Plenty of wind right there, boys.
I'd just hang it out down at the Hollywood Hotel. We'll put it to the test.
Open the door. Better grease up them bearings real good.
There we go. Now that's what I'm talking about.
Some good stuff there.
Sprint brings you an inside look at what's happening now inside the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Top speed of this session, Denny Hamlin, 96.2 miles an hour.
Dropping her on down there, Larry. 1968.
For more NASCAR stats, in-car audio, and live race radio, it's NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile at sprint.com/speed. Sam Hornish, you saw, up to 8th in this practice session, and Joey Logano currently toward the bottom of the chart after 20 laps.
You know, after Joey sat on the pole last week at Bristol, he has now become the youngest Sprint Cup Rookie of the Year, the youngest race winner after winning at Loudon last year, and now the youngest pole winner. It did it in 44 career starts as well.
And yet, he is a racing driver with, what, 13 years experience?
At least.
Behind the wheel?
At least. Every bit of it.
You know what about those 13 years? They were winning years, too. He's won in everything he's driven.
Tony is 30th on the speed chart, and his teammate Ryan Newman 24th right now.
And you know, speaking of Joey, I really like his demeanor. I like the way he goes about his business. He's a gentleman. He races fair. He races clean. He may have to get a little tougher as he goes down the road because guys seem to maybe possibly take advantage of him at times because of being the way he is. But he'll toughen up.
He's very confident, but he's not cocky at all.
No.
And you know, sometimes you have to get a little bit of that in you.
Yep. A little attitude.
You know, frankly, I don't see a whole lot of difference between Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski in the car. but out of the car, the perception of those two young drivers is very different. And yes, everybody wants Brad to be more respectful and wants Joey to pick it up and get up on the wheel.
Step it up a bit.
Well, I'll tell you that, that nationwide race, Kevin Harvick didn't turn Joey around just for no reason.
Right.
Joey was running him pretty aggressively, and Harvick thought he was faster. Whether the end justified the means is a subject for great debate.
That might be one of those. You can look at it two ways. Why did you wreck me for 5th place? And now the other side of the coin is, why didn't you get out of my way for fifth place?
See, Scott Speed, I was talking to his crew chief, Jimmy Elledge, this morning, that 82 car. This is the first time I think they've ever been able to breathe and not have to worry about not being in the top 35. And of course, Scott has been well up in the points, had a little bit of a bobble last week when he had that tire cut down with 20 to go, but still comes in here 18th in the points.
There's his teammate Brian Vickers, 27th on the board, and just about a 20 flat.
And Larry, if you just, once you're in the top 35 pretty comfortably, I mean, you got to have some really bad days to get knocked out. Because guys back in that range back there, the one thing that like Kevin Conway comes to mind. The reason he's in the top 35 is because he finished every race.
Yeah, right. Running at the end.
He wasn't running that great. Maybe he didn't finish but 30th or 27th, but he finished every race.
Mark Martin is 4th quickest right now at a 1977. Actually, Montoya just went to the top of the charts a second ago with that 42 car.
First time this year for CarQuest on Mark's
good-looking car.
Yeah,
good-looking car.
They're going to do a bunch of races with Henry. Not as many as last year with the 5 team, but they will be primary sponsor for a number of races.
Talking about Montoya, I was sitting over at the Speedway this past week, and I like to listen to the cars. And there was no cars over there that had more grunt and was coming up out of the corner with speed more than the guys that had the ECR engines. Those guys are making some smoke. I'm telling you, they sound like they had 100 more horsepower when they'd come up out of the hole.
Now, when we qualify this afternoon, it's kind of an interesting procedure the way they do it, because the cars go out on the racetrack in turn 2. When they come around to the start-finish line, that's almost just like a warm-up lap. The next lap will be a warm-up lap, so you really get 3 laps, but your time laps are lap 2 and lap 3 the way it works.
And that really confuses you and your crew chief. So do I go hard when I leave pit road, or do I take it easy? Do I try to get it on the first lap, or do I try to make it up on the second lap?
Because does it confuse your tires?
Well, that's
and at what point do you take the good off the tire?
Yeah, well, you take the good off them, and then it's that debate about what air pressure do I want to go out with. If I'm going to go hard on that first lap, I want to be at max. If I'm going to let it come to me a little bit, then I got to be down a couple of pounds. And then, do I pump up the rights and leave the lefts alone? Or do I pump them all up, tires here and tire pressure to qualify with, and whether you go on stickers or not, I'll tell you, it'll drive you crazy.
Huge, though. Very huge.
Back down the garage, and Krista.
Well, at the start of this practice session, Kurt Busch said his number 2 car was terrible. He said to his crew chief, I'm still struggling. Steve Addington and his crew made changes after that last run. Kurt said the last 2 changes were great. He said, this may be the best laps that I have ever run at Martinsville. Dick?
No, and that brakes are incredibly important here at Martinsville. In fact, a complete set of brakes for one of these cars, including just 1 set of pads, is going to set a team back about $20,000. Right now, Ryan Newman's team is changing over to a qualifying setup, and among the changes they are going to make, rotors that are for qualifying only. Says so right on the tape on the outside of those brake rotors.
And you know why you do that? Because these brakes are what they race with are so big and so good that you'll overbrake the car. We've actually taken here to qualify, changed the pads around, have a soft pad on the inside and a hard pad on the outside of the rotor, so you don't have so much brake. Because one of the things you'll do here, overdrive the corner, get on those great big old brakes with all that force, you'll lock up the tires. So you play a little bit of a mind game with the car and the driver, trying to balance those brakes out so they're not good, but not too good.
Montoya, Hamlin, and Johnson pace this practice, which has now been going on for about 45 minutes. There they are in tomorrow. The world's toughest trucks march into Martinsville. Don't miss the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series live right here tomorrow, 1:30 Eastern, only on Speed.
Boys, they get it on here in those trucks. Most of them leave here without a tailgate because they are banging on each other.
Tailgates and tempers.
That's right.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. watching the video scoreboard here at Martinsville Speedway. You know, they were talking about Kurt Busch a while ago. He said earlier this week that Martinsville, for him, is the toughest racetrack. It's the most difficult, that he struggles with the most. There's his crew chief, Steve Addington. But going back to Bristol, I was so pumped up to see Kurt Busch after that race. He didn't care about a good points day. He wasn't worried about finishing third. He was there to win that race, and he was ticked because he didn't win that race.
He led 278 laps there, which is the most he's ever led in one race at Bristol. Larry, all he's got to do is look at the tape of that last restart. When those cars took off and went into turn one, it's like the Red Sea parting for Moses. That hole opened up for Jimmy Johnson, and he dove through it, and it closed right up for Kurt Busch, just that quick.
Just like it opened up for him on the last restart at Atlanta, I think, when he dove down through the middle.
Well, I'm still not convinced that he wasn't partly upset, though, about him. I think he is the one that asked for 4 tires. And I'm not so sure that he wasn't upset that, you know, maybe I should have taken 2 and we could have had that track position rather than be caught back there the way we were.
I think he was probably the only car that might have gotten away with 2 tires and held the lead and won the race. We'll never know.
That's where Chad Knaus keeps those guys so messed up they don't know what to do next. What's Chad going to do?
He wins with 2. He wins with 4.
Is he going to take 2? What if he beats me and takes 4?
Montoya back to the top of the chart as we check with Dick.
With David Rudiman, who went 44 consecutive races without a DNF, and then 2 in a row engine failures out. Have you got the engine squared away for this weekend at Martinsville?
Oh yeah, Total Racing Development always builds some great horsepower, and you know, the motor failure we had in Atlanta was self-inflicted. That was something that in-house failed on the NWR side, and we got that fixed. And last week, something just broke. So you know, you can't forget that Total Racing Development was building us motors for all those DNFs as well. I mean, not for the races that we always finished those 44 in a row that we had no problems with, and sometimes you're going to have problems. So hopefully we won't have any more this year. I think we got a good car, and they built us great horsepower, and it's always generally really reliable.
David's feeling extra pressure this weekend because his father, 68-year-old Buzzy Rudiman, won East Bay a couple of weeks ago. You got to get yourself a checkered flag to keep up with your old dad.
Absolutely.
Daryl, I think you said it this morning. Our racing is not about him. But if the engine hadn't blown up in that 00 car, I know Kurt Busch was a dominant car. That car, David Rudiman, was good last week at Bristol.
Yeah, he was real good. And of course, you know, Marcos was too. He got those couple of pit road speeding penalties, and both times he was coming back to the front. But Marcos had a wreck, and David had that engine problem.
Now, Carl Edwards is the only Ford in the top 20 in this practice session. He is 3rd. And if that fellow talking to Jeff Gordon looked familiar, it's because it's a former teammate of his, Ricky Craven, who is now doing some TV work for ESPN. Mike McDowell, 35th, and he's above the line on the go-or-go-homers as far as who would be in the race based on their practice speed. Not so much comfortably so. He and David Stremme would be the last 2 in the race based on practice speeds, with Terry Cook, Casey Mears, and Max Pappas the ones who would go home based on practice right now.
I guarantee you it'll be just this way in qualifying. David Stremme would be in at a 20.098. Terry Cook would be out at a 20.12. And I guarantee it'll probably be even closer than that of who makes it and who goes home.
You know, one of the hardest things to do here is back up your practice speed. Boy, and it's because of that tire selection. So many times you get in this debate with yourself about whether I should go on stickers, scuffs, 1 lap, 2 laps.
You know, Robbie Gordon there is out of the top 20, and so is top 35, and so is David Stremme. Those cars were in the show with the qualifying exemption last week. Now they are out of the top 35 and are having to qualify their spots in the top 35 have been taken by Scott Speed and Bobby Labonte. And that will all change week to week. Sprint Cup practice live at Martinsville. Top of the board has changed again. Denny Hamlin has just laid down the quickest lap of the day at a 1960, displacing Juan Pablo Montoya from the top of the board. Then it's Clint Boyer, Jeff Burton, and Carl Edwards. Mark Martin now 7th. He had been in the top spot.
I don't know that he will move on that lap because he had to pass someone, whoever that is right behind him.
He actually moved up one spot, though, to a 19.726. That puts him 6th quickest right now.
And Jimmy Johnson is now 7th. 1/1000th of a second behind Mark.
That probably changed on this little run. Looks like everybody's out right now trying to see what they got.
Nope, 1988. No change. I like that shot, Darrell, where the car comes up off the corner and you see it just rear up and leap up off the corner.
Yeah, here it's like you're in a rocking chair. You want it to rock back when you come out of the corner, and you want it to rock forward when you go down in the corner. You want to put load on the front tires going in. You want to put load on the rear tires coming off.
You know his record here, he has 16 starts here, and he's only finished, talking about Jimmy Johnson, outside the top 10 one time. His first visit here, he finished 35th.
Well, Dick is with a happy guy who maybe for the first time in his whole Cup career doesn't have to worry about qualifying.
How about that, Scott Speed? And it's taken a lot of the open wheel guys 2 years and even 3 years to get accustomed to these big heavy stock cars, but you're 18th in points already. How have you gotten a hold of this stuff so quickly?
I don't know. I mean, like you said, I mean, it does take a while, and it's still, I got a long time in front of me yet till I really get the hang of it. But at the moment, we hit on something that's working, so keep that ball rolling, and hopefully we can continue to have success this year.
I see your wife has let you keep the hair for another week as well.
for now.
Maybe it'll be his good luck charm.
Wonder if he knows it's got that really blue looking place in it.
Probably.
I think he does.
Dale Jr. up to 4th, and Jeff Burton to 5th. As we have a look at Brian Vickers, who is 25th right now.
Boy, Larry, I'm getting a little worried about Burton. Over to test at Charlotte, he was the fastest cat, and today here he is in the top 5 in practice. That is a big kind of swing for that team because they don't always run that fast.
Well, how about his teammate who has 3 threes on the board, 2 on his car and 1 in the position number, 3rd fastest, Clint Boyer. Kristen.
That's right, Mike. This was a great car last year in this race. Clint Boyer turned that quick lap of 3rd on that last run. Clint set his car just a little bit too tight in the middle of the corner. So Shane Wilson, the crew chief, said, let's go up a quarter round on the right side track bar to try to make that better.
You know, ever since Northern Iowa got paired up in the bracket with Kansas, Krista has done every single interview and talk about with Clint Boyer. Coincidence? I think not.
I think not. I would like to clarify that Burton runs fast in the race. He always does, but that kind of qualifying has never been real high on their priority list. Looks like they've really turned that around.
All year long, yeah.
Richard Childress has a busy weekend here. His grandson Austin will be racing here in the Camping World Truck Series, and Granddad was giving the young driver a few pointers from up on top of the hauler earlier as they watched this practice session.
And I don't know about anybody else, can't speak for other people, but I know it does my heart good when I looked out my window this morning and saw that 3 truck, the 3 that everybody's so familiar with, on the racetrack.
Absolutely. Jeff Gordon trying to make some noise. He is 22nd right now with a 1994. Picks it up to a 1976.
Up to
and
9.
that will jump him up to the top 10. Denny Hamlin stays quickest, Montoya 2nd, and Boyer 3rd. NASCAR on Speed Broadband with videos on demand. Visit the video section of speedtv.com or NASCAR.com and get your race recaps from programs like Trackside Race Day, Victory Lane, and more. Sam Hornish has jumped up into the top half dozen, as has Jamie McMurray, now third behind Hamlin and Montoya. And there is Brad Keselowski. Jimmy Johnson back up in the top 10, now 7th. And Keselowski 41st right now in this practice session. Carl Edwards, the only Ford in the top 10, which is 7 out of 10 Chevys, 1 Dodge, 1 Toyota.
Do you know, Mike, Roush cars here, I've watched them over and over again. They always seem to have a little, they struggle here. Matt Kenseth he's not a big fan of Martinsville. Biffle sometimes has brake issues. Carl probably overall has been the most consistent of the Roush Fenway cars.
We're talking about Scott Speed and not having to qualify. The first 5 races of his rookie season, that car was locked into the field based on prior year points, by the way. Phil Parsons pointed that out to us. He's up here with Rick Allen waiting to do the Craftsman Truck Series practice that comes along here in a little while.
Yeah, back to your point, Darrell. Jack Roush, the last time he won here was the fall race of 2002 with Kurt Busch driving that car.
Camping World Truck Series. You know, after 15 years, it's still hard. And every once in a while, it just falls out. But what are you going to do?
I didn't know what he was waving at. I thought my Jack Roush and Kurt Busch stat was wrong.
No, Slav's not here, so that's my imitation of Slav.
That's right. Throw your arms in the air and get Camping World Truck
Throw your
Series.
arms in the air and shake your head. Don't ever tell them what it is you're talking about.
Well, all I know is this is a Sprint Cup Series, and that's the fastest Sprint Cup Series car in practice so far. Montoya goes back up top at a 19.58.
Every time he's gone out for a run, he's lowered the bar.
Got a little faster.
Another cat just jumped up there, A.J. Allmendinger, that 43 car, the Dinger's 3rd quickest.
Wow.
That's big.
And his car isn't even Petty Blue.
And McMurray, I mean, there's the 1 car along with Montoya. They're both of those Ganassi cars in the top 5.
And that'll knock Junior out of the top 5. Now there's 43 carrying Charter Communications and that purple and gold scheme. There is a car here that is Petty Blue, and it is one of the Richard Petty Motorsports cars. Just doesn't happen to be the 43.
You know, guys, we still have 30 minutes to go in this practice, which is actually like eternity when you think about it at Martinsville. Montoya's fastest at a 19.58. If this was indeed qualified, Michael McDowell at a 20.07 would not make the show less than a half a second.
There's the Petty Blue car, and it's Elliott Sadler's. Not the first time the King has had Petty Blue on his Ford. At the Amelia Island Concourse a couple of weeks ago up north of Jacksonville that Bill Warner and Tom Cotter put on. The King was there. He was the honored guest, and a lot of cars of the King, Richard Petty, were there. Bruce Canepa hauled one of those 69 Torinos all the way from north of San Francisco to bring it to Jacksonville and include it in the display of cars of the King. Beautifully restored, ready to go. And apologies to Kyle Busch's coach driver Steve. I threw him under the bus last week.
He got on us.
I understand. Yeah, he talked to you, but I've talked to him. He was not responsible for resetting Kyle's, what is it, iDock or whatever it is that he puts his iPod into that tells him when to wake up because it's time to qualify.
So whose responsibility is it?
I would say.
If I find that out, I'll let you know. But it's a very circuitous path.
I think there's a clue.
Yeah.
I think there's a clue in the name of that instrument you talked about.
The I as in iPod,
That's
iDock.
right. That's right.
Okay.
You know, we just heard real clearly there the rev limiter, and that actually is a pretty important tool here because I see guys tuning with that rev limiter chip more than anything to give that driver indication, hey, this is deep enough. Get out, roll out of the throttle.
You know the worst thing you can do though?
What's that?
Is that drivers say, well, I'm hitting the rev chip just before I get to the corner. And so, well, we'll raise it up a little bit. Next time you go out, you say, whoa! that is like your warning device.
The only rev limiter up here is going to be on the number of hot dogs consumed.
Whoa, man.
Krista.
We eat them by the bags.
Jimmy Johnson said his car got loose on that run. In fact, when Jimmy went out, Chad said he was looking for a 60, as in a 19.60. Their times 75 and 69. We're coming up a little bit short on that run, but short for this team, not too bad.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Krista. He had tires on then that looked like a qualifying run. I was surprised he didn't pick up more.
One thing that's unique about Martinsville now in the Sprint Cup Series is the straightaways are asphalt and all the way through the corners concrete. We started this practice session in full sun, Larry. Now we've gone to 100% overcast.
Yeah, Daryl and I were actually just looking at that. I mean, conditions are perfect right now. But, you know, one of the big challenges here used to be, because that concrete almost ended, well, we're looking at the entrance to the corner, but it ended well back in the corner. And when you would make that transition from the concrete to the asphalt, the car would want to lose a lot of forward bite. When they redid it a few years ago, they actually carried that concrete well up on the straightaway, and it's not near as a tough transition as it used to be.
You know why those corners are concrete?
Asphalt tore up.
Yeah, every time we come
side
here,
load.
yeah, all the tires were so good that they just eat the track up. They just dig the turns up every time we'd come here. And Clay Earls said, I know what I'll do. I'll fix that. They won't dig that concrete up. Well, Jeff Gordon might argue about that, but.
Well, Montoya is quickest in this practice session over Denny Hamlin and AJ. Hey, don't miss race day this Sunday, and here's why. The King, Richard Petty's on the show. Plus, Junior Johnson and Ned Jarrett will welcome Jimmy Johnson to the prestigious 50 Victory Club. It's all on NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot. Sunday, 10 Eastern, only on Speed. Montoya's off the top of the board. Jeff Gordon is now the fastest car in town.
1955. They just keep bringing it on down.
Yeah, Larry, everybody's starting to get into qualifying mode now. We're running, you know, last 20-30 minutes of practice here. You can see cars sitting on the end of pit road over there, all kind of taped up, 4 tires, ready to see what they got.
You know, each week this year we've talked about the little bit of a change that Goodyear has made in the tires. And as far as compound, which is really how much grip the tires have this week, it's pretty much the same as we raced in 2009. The one thing that they did do is they made a little construction change in the right side. The tires go through such an abuse here as far as heat, especially sidewall heat from the brakes. They've tried to do some things to the construction of the sidewall on the right side to help with that brake heat.
The tires here have always been pretty durable. I think about the truck racing, and Phil and Rick McCure, they know this. I mean, some guys never change tires. 200 laps, just run all day, and still run well. And that's kind of been the history of Martinsville.
Well, Mark Martin's atop of the board now at a 19.55, just like Gordon, but he's a 5.50. Gordon's a 5.59.
It's like drag racing. 55 with an O, 55 with a 9, right. 58 with an 8.
Krista?
I want to give you an update on Jeff Burton. He said his race car just needs it to turn a little bit better and needs rear grip. When they jumped into qualifying trim, he told Todd Barrier it really feels the same as it did in race trim.
And the thing about it, you're never going to have all the rear grip that you're looking for. You almost can't get there, especially as far as race trim. But you've got to get that thing to turn through the middle, because a lot of times when the car is shoving the nose and won't turn there, that'll almost magnify the way the car gets up off the corner.
Let's check with Dick Berggren.
With A.J. Allmendinger, who's had a good run here this afternoon. Hot rod's awfully fast, but I'm thinking about last year, where when you started the season, you only had 8 races guaranteed. You were racing without being paid some of the time. How much happier are you now?
A lot happier. It's you know, to have Best Buy step up in Valvoline, and we got Charter on the Ford this weekend. So really happy. Love being with Rich Petty Motorsports. Got to keep getting this thing a little bit better. Race trim, it was okay. Did our first qualifying run. It was pretty good, but we know the times are going to keep stepping up. So we'll just keep fine tuning and hopefully get this thing up front.
This guy's got so many fans. It's just nice to see you having a good year.
Thanks, Dick. Ryan Newman had a good run going at Bristol, and the second to last caution flag had a pit stop where something went awry, and Newman ended up toward the back of the pack. They lost about 5 seconds there on pit road on that stop, spoiling what would have been a very good day for the 39.
Yeah, we asked Ryan, you know, throw away the finishes, the box scores. Where are you guys at this year versus at this point a year ago when you were essentially a brand new race team? He said, we're quite sure we're better. It's just we're encountering some things that we really wasn't anticipating, like pit stop woes.
Well, here's one thing. He better not have any more bad days, because he's floating back toward the out of time, the top 35 there. But just now, as you can see,
top of the board, 15:53. Our coverage of NASCAR's weekend in Martinsville continues next here on Speed with Camping World Truck Series practice, followed by Sprint Cup Series qualifying and Camping World Truck Series qualifying. Then tomorrow, the final 2 sessions of Sprint Cup practice on Speed, followed by the Camping World Truck Series race right here at 1:30 Eastern Time. Sunday begins with NASCAR race day on Speed. Fox coverage of the Sprint Cup Series at noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific, and it all wraps up at 8 p.m. Eastern with NASCAR Victory Lane. All your NASCAR this weekend on Speed and Fox. Well, right now, Ryan Newman paces practice as Mother Nature is having her way with the racetrack. A light rain beginning to fall. All that overcast that came in included some heavy, stormy-looking clouds.
it was getting darker and darker, but man, I don't think they were calling for any rain this afternoon.
Not this afternoon. What went through here last night was supposed to be it for a while.
Oh, man.
And that would really hurt Ryan Newman's feelings if this qualifying session later on today gets rained out, because remember, he comes in here 26th in the points, and right now he's fastest in the practice session.
No umbrellas. You can see just an occasional interval wipe of the windshield there on the safety truck. So just a little bit of a light rain.
Yeah,
hopefully this won't slow us down for too long.
This can't last very long. I think it's going to be okay.
Getting ready to reopen the track for practice. Once again, it's Newman on top. Mark Martin, Jeff Gordon, Montoya, and Hamlin the top 5. Allmendinger 6. Logano has moved himself up to 7th. Jamie Mack, Clint Boyer, and Scott Speed are the top 10 right now.
Boy, Larry, the tires look like they might be working pretty well, because I see a lot of, as you can see off the corner back here, that's a lot of rubber building up, a lot of pieces of the tires where they make those rubber balls and roll them up the hill there.
Marbles.
But you sure don't want to get in any of that, I can tell you, because you get that on hot tires, it's like having 4 flat tires.
Yes. But Mike, you mentioned it a while ago, and I think you said it absolutely spot on. With that one lap you get before you actually start your time lap, the biggest thing is don't make either end of that car mad as far as the tires. Don't slide the front, don't spin the rears, whatever you got to do there. Jeff Gordon is notorious for even creeping around here to some degree on his first time lap,
right,
and then really going for it when he's got maximum heat in those tires on lap 2.
Nice pickup for Keselowski. He jumps to 29th from the mid-40s. And here's the dinger. 1962 is his fast lap, and he equals that. Should be quite a battle for the pole when we get to qualify later this afternoon here on Speed.
See what this lap is on AJ. Look fast.
Yeah, 59 moves him up into the top 5.
This car's really looking good.
Now, Darrell, you were talking about making the decision on what tires to go out on. I think what Tony Gibson and Ryan Newman did is they ran that 1953. I think they put a set of stickers on, went out and did not even make a full lap, went right back in the garage area just to kind of knock that shininess, knock the labels off possibly their qualifying tires.
Yeah, what happens sometime with such a low gear and so much power, if you go out on sticker tires, you hit the third turn down here, the car skates all over the place. It just will not hook up. So you knock that off of the tires before you go to qualify. It just gives you a lot more confidence as a driver when the car's under you like that.
Martin Truex just picked up to 8th place with a 1965.
Other than a road course, if there's one racetrack we go to where if the entrance messes up, you're pretty much done the entire corner at this place because they're so tight.
2 P7 right there.
1962, Truex to 7th, and Marcus Ambrose jumps up into the top 10 with a 1965. It was just a couple minutes ago, Denny Hamlin was on the top of the board. He's not even in the top 5 now.
I think this will keep changing for about the next 11 or 12 minutes. Yeah,
Nice
third
jump.
quickest.
Car was good at Bristol. Good again this week.
So the top 5 now: Newman, Martin, Ambrose, Jeff Gordon, and Montoya. Fast Track to Fame lets America's most unique performers cut loose each week for a chance to become a star. Catch an encore performance of Fast Track to Fame Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, and only on Speed.
Cornish on the run. Car looked pretty good getting around the bottom of the racetrack.
Sam's at 16th on the board right now.
See that left rear tire, how it gets all wrinkled up? Looks like a drag car going down through there. That's just grip, man.
You know, we've had a couple drag racing references. They're going to take a page from our book when they go to ZMAX Dragway, and they're going to run them 4 wide.
That's this weekend, right?
Should be quite a show.
It will be. That's crazy.
Sam jumps up in the top 10, 10th quickest at a 19.622.
Very nice job. Here goes the Harv.
He is 14th right now with a 65. Runs 66.
You know, teams continue to try to find places to go test because obviously the way the rules are, you can't test at a sanctioned racetrack. Talked to Gil Martin, the crew chief for Kevin Harvick this morning. They were at North Wilkesboro Speedway yesterday. The first time a Cup car has been there since 1996 when we last raced there.
Wow.
Gil said even the mayor came out to welcome them to the racetrack.
But you know what, Larry? Guys would like to have tested there before, but they wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
Couldn't get on the racetrack. So that's a pleasant change. That track, and I think the one in Nashville at the fairgrounds. I believe if you could get a car to handle at those 2 places, you could go anywhere and run good.
Running well, Clint Boyer 15th right now with a 1966.
You know, you think about the engines here, Larry. They get to down to what, about probably 48 to 5,000 RPM.
Oh, I'd say at least, yeah.
Maybe even 4,500 in the corner. And then they've got to dig up out of that corner and hit about 9,500 at the end of the straightaway. It's a little different engine combination here than you'll probably run anywhere else. You tune the car differently. You got a little maybe different carburetor. You want that, what I like to call part throttle response, because you can't always get it wide open. So you might want to work the throttle just a little wee bit at part throttle, and that engine's got to respond when you do go ahead and push it wide open.
Jeff Gordon just ran a 62 to back up the 1955 that he had earlier.
Yeah, for the race, Darrell, you'll do a lot of things, even like what we do for road courses. Maybe instead of a 1-to-1 throttle linkage, maybe put that progressive linkage on it, like, again, we use it at a road course.
Right, that, and you'll use a little different header combination here. You can't do it now because it's kind of locked in, but we used to run smaller tailpipes here just to get good bottom end response. So when the driver was part throttle, when he did mat it, the thing would go.
Yeah, not a whole lot about top end horsepower here.
Here it's about velocity in the engine, not volume.
Mike Bliss did not qualify last week at Bristol. Trying to get the Wave Chevy back into qualifying trim, and right now he would be right at the bubble. 1998 his best lap. Robbie Gordon 1996.
That won't help you any.
One of those two would go and the other go home.
Hitting that curve, man, that's something that'll happen to you on a qualifying run. You really got to watch it. You got to be right on it, but you hit it and it'll mess up your whole lap.
Yeah, right now, Bliss, McDowell, and Pappas would be the guys in trouble if this indeed was qualifying. We only got about 5 minutes to go in this practice.
Brian Newman still top of the chart. Ryan Newman top of the chart with a 1953. The last time we qualified here, pole winner in October, Ryan Newman had a 1956.
Mike, now here's what can happen to you. Here's the third fastest car here, and he's coming down in the corner, and this is what you got to really focus hard on. If you overdrive the corner and you get your foot on those really big brakes like they run here, you'll lock the tires up and ruin your lap.
Because if you do that getting into turn 3 on lap 1, that's pretty much going to destroy lap 1 and probably lap 2.
And you know what else it destroys? It destroys your confidence. You start worrying about it. Let's see what happens here with Smoke.
And Travis Quapple in the A&W Root Beer. Just
wow. I'm telling you, that's a lot of damage to that left rear quarter panel of that car.
I think there was some message being delivered there. Smoke was probably on a qualifying run, and I'd say that 34 there, Mr. Quapple, may have eased up in front of him at an inopportune time for both.
But if that indeed was what
I'm just trying to see if we can run this car for
Tony was doing, he actually caused a lot of work for that 14 crew as well, because there's a lot of damage to the right front of that 14 car.
Tony was about a half a second faster than Travis.
You'll have that here at Martinsville.
Right.
I think we'll have plenty of that on Sunday.
All day long.
Scott, ooh, there's some more of that one I'm talking about.
Well, that's David Stremme.
Yeah, he's on a qualifying run.
And remember, he is out of the top 30. They're out of the top 35 this week. They were guaranteed in the first 5 races, 4 with Boris Said and 1 with David, and now David's trying to bring them back up.
You know, honestly, that was a good run that David Stremme had last week.
Yeah.
I know it didn't keep him in the top 35. He ran all day long, only lost 2 laps, and evidently their National Guard thought so too, because they're back. Bobby Hutchins trying to calm Tony down a little bit. I'll talk, Bobby. I'm just going to talk to him.
I want to tell him what he did wrong.
Bobby's raced for 30 years down at the Madhouse, Bowman Gray Stadium, so he knows a little bit about tempers.
That ought to be interesting, that conversation.
Yes.
Heck, and it's only Friday.
Ryan Newman wins practice over Martin, Ambrose, Gordon, and Hamlin. 1 Ford in the top 10, that's Allmendinger. And the fastest Dodge 11th, that is Hornish. Ambrose was the quickest Toyota. Well, they'll tune him up for qualifying, and we'll be back with that later on today. First, Camping World Truck Series practice. And a bit of work to be done down in the garage area.
And some splaining to be done, too.
Probably a good thing it was a long walk down there.
We're not getting into that. We're going straight across the track to Steve Burns.